lovely library lions. Today we're doing another tag video, and this one is the Talking Titles tag, which I was tagged in by Nerdy Nat Reads. Thank you so much for tagging me. I always have so much fun doing tag videos, and let's get right into it. Question number 1 is, we often say don't judge a book by its cover, but do you ever judge a book by its title? Does a book's title influence if you pick it up and if you read it? So I do tend to judge books by their title sometimes. Titles are part of a marketing campaign. I don't really truly believe the whole don't judge a book by its cover thing, because you're meant to judge a book by its cover at least a little bit. Covers are made to represent what the book is about and the general vibe of the book, and a whole team has been put together to create a cover that you can look at and decide whether you want to read the book or not. It's true that sometimes nice covers hold stories that are not good stories, and sometimes ugly covers have a good story behind them. And I think the same is going to be true for titles. They are both things done by a marketing team to try and make you want to read their book. So sometimes they're going to be successful and you're going to enjoy the book. Sometimes you're going to be tricked. You're going to find a book with a nice title and a nice cover, and it's not going to be a book that you want to read. I still fall victim to it. I mean, when you see a beautiful cover, you want it on your shelf. When you hear a fun title or an exciting title, you want to pick up that book. Books like The Raven Boys, I don't think I would have read if I had read the synopsis and just judged it on that, but The Raven Boys is a fun title. It sounds interesting. I don't know what that could be about. It is intriguing, and so I picked it up. And that's just how sometimes it goes. I pick books sometimes because the title is fun, I pick them sometimes because the cover is nice, and sometimes I pick them because I like the synopsis. All three of these things can individually lead me to wanting to pick up a book, and it doesn't mean that I'll like the book. Sometimes I fail myself and I choose a pretty cover or a pretty title, and it turns out that it is a horrible book, and that's just how life is. Not everyone can be a winner, but titles do influence if I read a book. That's what they're meant to do. Titles are meant to help you decide what you want to read without having to read every synopsis in the bookstore when you're just wandering and looking for something. I say that like I do that now, but everything is on my TBR. I don't wander the bookstore looking for new books. Question number 2 is, when you read a book, do you try and figure out how it got its title? Yes, I do this all the time. When I read a book and I see the title, I think, are they going to say the title in the story? Is the title a reference to an event or a character? And if I can't figure it out, I'm a little mad. I want there to be a significance to the title. For example, Strange the Dreamer, that's what Laszlo is called, and Muse of Nightmares is what Sarai is called. So those titles make sense. Six of Crows, the Crows are the gang, there are 6 of them. That makes sense. And I want every title to make sense like that. I desperately need the title to mean something. If I read the whole book and I cannot figure out why the title was given to the book, it's not a good title. It means nothing. Where did you pull that title from? Where did it come from? I can't think of any book that has done this to me yet, but if I remember one, I will be so upset, because your title has to mean something. Your title has to come from somewhere, and ideally that place is somewhere within the book. Either it's from a quote, or it's a reference to a character, or it's just generally what the book is about. It has to mean something. I don't want a title that just means nothing, and I read the whole book and I'm like, that's a weird way for them to title it. It also makes it really hard to remember the title when there's no interconnectivity between the title and the book that the title is for. Leading into question number 3, is, do you typically remember book titles, or do you always think that book where this and this happens? I almost always remember book titles. I don't know why, because there are so many other things in life that I struggle constantly to remember, that I have a lot of issues remembering, and book titles are not one of those. I read at least 70 to 80 books a year, and maybe I can't pull up a list of these are the titles I read this year, but if you said, oh, what is the book where this happens? I would know the title of it if I read it. I have a very good memory for titles, and it makes no sense to me that this is one of the things that my brain said, oh, you can remember what all these books are called, but you're not going to be able to remember how to drive to somewhere you've only driven like 70 times. You can't remember directions, but book titles, we got you. You can remember every book title of every book you've ever read, all 1,000 of them or however many I'm at now. it's worthless. It's a worthless skill for me to have, honestly, except when I am booktubing or book blogging. Otherwise, there's not a lot of demand for me to remember titles, but I have them. I have them all in here. Question number 4 is, do you feel series titles should coordinate, and what's the best series you can think of? Yes, I want my titles to match. I really like the way that 3 Dark Crowns did it, whereas 3 Dark Crowns, 2 Dark Reigns, 5 Dark Fates, they all match, they're nice, but it's so rare for that to work all the way through a series. And I don't know what it is that has done this, but every series screws it up on the last book or so. For example, The Cruel Prince, The Wicked King, The Queen of Nothing. That last one doesn't fit in the aspect. Court of Thorns and Roses, we were good all the way up to A Court of Silver Flames. It's not a court of blank and blank, it's just A Court of Silver Flames. Doesn't match with the rest of the books. Maybe it's signifying like the adult ones are going to have titles like that. I don't like it. It doesn't match. The Winter's Crime, The Winter's Curse, The Winter's Kiss. Kiss starts with a K. That's not a C. It's not a 5-letter C word. It looks awful on the spines. I don't know why books can't make it all the way through a series with these nice, clear, clean, matching titles. And it upsets me so much because I want all my book titles to match and look nice on the spines, especially if you have something where it's the same number of letters each time and it looks great. But I've never seen it work out that way. It always ends up getting messed up on the last couple of books, and maybe that's because the title is better. Like, The Queen of Nothing is a really intriguing title, but I hate that it doesn't match with the other two. Like, you could have done The Empty Queen or something else in a similar vein that suited the other two titles. And I don't think this is a big deal, ultimately. I don't think it's anyone else is looking at their shelves and be like, oh, I hate this, I hate this. But every time I look at my shelves, I think about it just a little and how they could have done it much better. And I just want all my series to match. I want them to match not just in cover, but in title scheme. I think it's much nicer when a series matches in title scheme than when they do one change on one book in the series for no apparent reason. Question number 5 is, what are your favorite titles? This is pretty hard. Let me take a peek at my shelves. So nothing super stands out to me. There are titles that I know I picked up the books because of the title. 6 of Crows I picked up because of the title. The Cruel Prince I really like the title of. But other than that, like, I don't really attach myself to titles. I know there are titles that are more interesting, titles that drew me in, but I wouldn't say, oh, this is my favorite title that I've seen a book have, because ultimately I prefer covers over titles, so I can think of my favorite covers. I cannot think of my favorite titles because I don't have a list in my mind of titles that I think were really fun and good, because they're just not that important. As long as they match the titling scheme, I'm not thinking about them that much. And I think that's fine. I think they're just meant to help you pick up a book, and after that, they sort of, you don't display a title, you display a cover. So after you pick up the book, the title stops having very much meaning, and I don't really have any super favorite titles. Question number 6 is, what's the most iconic title that comes to mind? I think A Court of Thorns and Roses, because it was part of a time in YA where a blank of blank and blank became such a big thing. It was a meme. Everyone was memeing, what is your young adult novel title? And then they would help you fill in those 3 blanks. And A Court of Thorns and Roses was the first one that I saw that was really, really big. But of course there are other ones like A Girl of Fire and Thorns, those sorts of titles. So that was a really big meme, and I think A Court of Thorns and Roses is what pushes it into memedom, even though there were obviously books before it with that same titling scheme. We've moved away from it, I think, in YA. I don't see many A Blank of Blank and Blank anymore, but very iconic, very sort of classic YA. When people think about YA books, they think about titles like that, and I really loved doing those cute little fill-in-the-blank memes. I thought they were super fun, so that's my pick for an iconic title. Question number 7 is, what is the most boring or generic title that comes to mind? So, probably Harry Potter. I mean, it's just the main character's name and blank, and that's just very popular in children's and middle grade fiction. We see it in Percy Jackson. We see it in Harry Potter, just Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. It's the main character and big event or item in the book. And you put those together and you're like, that's a title. And it works. It tells you who the book is about and what the book is about. You can see from a glance, this is about the character of Harry Potter, and he is going to discover some sort of secret chamber. Or, oh, this is about Percy Jackson and stealing lightning. And you know, and that's an easy way to title your book. But it is so boring. I like to have to work a bit to figure out what the title is about, and not just know instantly looking at the title like, this is why the book is titled this. It's not something that would draw me to a book. I don't see books with titles like that and think, oh, that's something I would want to read, unless it's from a series that I already know, and then it's very easy to identify, oh, this is this book in this series, and it's going to be about this sort of event. So I think those are really uninspired. They're boring. Obviously, Percy Jackson and Harry Potter, that didn't affect them at all. They're both huge, huge series. And I think it works best for middle grade fiction because it helps, kids to instantly know what the book is about and who it's about, and it's an easy way to market to kids. As an adult, I don't really like it. I think there are better ways to title your books. There are ways to be more inspired, and I think when I see a book titled like that, I'm less likely to pick it up unless it is a well-known classic sort of read that everyone adores. Question number 8 is, hypothetically, if you were to rename your channel after a book title, what title would you choose and why? This is really hard. I don't know what I would choose for my channel title. Probably a book about fandom, something like Chaotic Good, Geekerella, Queens of Geek, something like that, because I feel like that suits me. I am a geek, and those are the titles I would pick. I don't think a fantasy book would really suit me. As much as I read fantasy, I don't feel like that's my vibe. I think I have a very sort of geek girl vibe and not, fantasy princess vibe. As much as I would like to imagine that I could be fair or someone in a fantasy series, I don't think I'm ever really going to reach that peak, but I could definitely be a girl who's going to a convention. That's something that I could manage, so I'd probably pick one of those. I really like Geekerella. I think that's cute. But it's probably already a channel name, honestly. It's such a cute play on words. I bet someone already has that channel. Obviously, I'm not intending to change my channel name, but if I was, I'd be going for that. That is it for today's tag video. So again, thank you so much to Nerdy Nat Reads for tagging me. I love doing these tag videos, and I know it takes me a while to get to them because I just don't film very often, so it takes me a bit to get to the tag videos, but I really, really do appreciate it, and I have so much fun. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope that you have a wonderful weekend.